Hello. Let's see what the rest of the world thinks about me and my country, Americans, in 2019. I mean, I think that's recent enough. It is the Trump era, so the reputation
Can
might have
someone
been a little bit lower. Whoa, that was loud. All right, let's just go.
tell me why Americans always leave the AC on, even if they go out all day? This question we saw last night posted on
So when you get home, it's, cozy.
an online forum by a
I wouldn't if I lived alone, but my wife would kill me.
disgruntled hotel owner. What followed were reams of insults, generalizations, arguments, peppered with the odd, intelligent, and temperate comment. That's par for the course online.
Really?
But it's fortunate
On the
we saw that
internet.
so soon before writing the show. We saw comments along the lines of, Americans are just arrogant and ignorant, as if 325.7 million people were molded into one monolithic entity. Then we saw,
what the heck?
I'm American,
I'm an individual.
and I leave the AC on as long as I like. I pay for it. See, people said, they all think the world owes them something. What about the environment? Driving around in their big cars and SUVs, throwing out more trash than anyone, and
Is that true about the trash? Throwing out more trash than anyone. Yeah, I guess I would believe that.
pretending to care about environmental disasters. This went on and on, with people casting
Pretending to care about?
to care about environmental disasters. This went on and on, with people casting aspersions against an entire nation. Others, of course, weren't so bad, calling out people for having a very limited understanding of a country and its cultural and intellectual
Hey, why is this cartoon so pudgy?
diversity. But can we make such generalizations? Could we argue that many Americans embrace their individuality and their right to do what they want? They paid for that darn AC, and they will darn well do what they want with it. The fact is, we all sometimes are culpable of whittling down the world to a manageable size that fits within our sometimes uneducated preconceptions. We cannot say all Americans are this or that, but perhaps there might be underlying character traits to a culture, something data, evidence, or experience can provide us with. But in
Fair
the end,
enough.
most of us don't rely on data or objective reasoning and rely instead on an image, a construction that we've created out of a wanton bias. Number 5. Arrogance. As we
Stereotypes is the word.
said, much of the world thinks Americans are arrogant. You don't have to look hard online to find this out. We hear that they
I was like, okay, at least they say we're punctual and polite. And then those graphs are like,
arrogant. You don't have to look hard online to find
what the heck? We can be arrogant and punctual. Why is that so low? Dang it.
this out. We hear that they like nothing more than to plant flags around their houses, and they go on and on about how great their country is.
Like nothing more than that.
And by association, that must mean how great they are, even though they often didn't do that much to claim this superiority. As the American comedian Doug Stanhope once alluded, some flag wavers are like imperial hangers-on. Anyway, some people say this is why Americans are often so loud, and don't worry, there are plenty of articles and forum questions asking why American voices tend to drown out others, say, when abroad. We might
There are some people, I mean, oh my gosh, I agree with that. But it's not all Americans. Like I don't have a voice like that, and I almost wish I did, but there are, well, I probably don't because it is annoying, but sometimes it's helpful. But there are people who are sitting on the other side of the restaurant, and you can just hear every word they're saying, even though they're just talking to their table. And they're not even necessarily doing it on purpose. It's crazy.
ask if this has anything to do with that sense of patriotism. The great country, greatest, best in the world, no doubt, better than anyone else, and also the entitlement that comes from a place that espouses expressive individualism at all costs. The loud American is a much better known phrase than the great piece of literature called the quiet American. Forums are full of people talking about these loud people, demanding, expatiating, bragging, complaining, extolling the merits of good old America, and forcing some poor European into a quiet internal violence, wondering all the time, do they not realize they're being obnoxious? Where's the self-awareness? Hell yes, go America! Now this isn't of course true for all Americans, it's a stereotype, but it exists. If you don't believe us, check it out for yourself. you could be reading for a year, even though it's fantastically unrealistic and arrogant to think the stereotype is true for all people in the USA. What we hope to do is point out such stereotypes, and we can discuss them after the show. Now, on to the next. Number 4. Ignorance. All countries attempt to imbue a sense of nationalism in their people. It's how they get soldiers to fight wars, to believe in the country, to create a sense of belonging and cooperation. But do nations' attempts to foster ignorance in people? Well, you might have read some critics saying the American school system is purposely trying to dumb down its citizens. They want workers, robots, not creative, critical, skeptical kids that might ask too many questions.
That's probably true.
Hail the idiocracy. We're not saying this is true, it's a criticism leveled by some people. But we can say that much of the world thinks Americans are ignorant. Well, to be frank, most of those shows pointing out American ignorance regarding their own nation are made on home turf. But you'll find people outside of the USA saying things like, they don't know anything about history, not even their own. They believe only in their own heroic narrative and think the French Revolution is a roller coaster. We're told Americans are so insular.
This sounds like what a lot of Americans think about Americans. So it's not like shocking to hear.
They are out of their depth when they walk out of the front door. But is any of this true? Listen to this.
Like, it's kind of trendy to be an American and think Americans are ignorant and stupid.
A cult of ignorance in the United States, and there always has been. The strain of anti-intellectualism has been a constant thread winding its way through our political and cultural life, nurtured by the false notion that democracy means that my ignorance is just as good as your knowledge. Those words were spoken by the American scientist Isaac Asimov. But the fact that those words were his means there's a contradiction in terms. America is constantly ablaze with creative thinking. There is a daily conflagration of innovation, thoughtful introversion, skepticism, groundbreaking scientific research, world-changing fiction, reasonable, intelligent discourse appearing in blogs, podcasts, etc. But it turns out a lot of people, including inside America and outside, believe a culture of ignorance is propagated there. Is there any data to support this? Yeah, there seems there is. The Big Think wrote a story in 2013 with the title, "Why Are Americans So Ignorant?" And indeed, within the article is a lot of compelling evidence that many, in some cases most Americans, know very little about how their own country works, or worked, and don't even ask about the rest of the world. Weak civics curricula.
It's definitely true that a lot of Americans don't care much to know or keep up with the global goings on, news outside of America. They don't care much. I'm pretty interested in global affairs and stuff, but that's just me.
And propaganda and misplaced priorities of the mainstream media all share some blame for American ignorance, the writer says. But we feel it goes deeper than that. We'll let you decide. Number 3, positiveness and friendliness. We've really been bashing America, so now we'll look at a positive stereotype as equally untrue for all Americans. We must add, though, that when it comes to generalizations of countries, many people harbor a negative bias. How many of you have ever uttered the words, "Oh, I really don't like the English, the French, the Indian, the Chinese"?
I have never. I mean, that's just the truth. I've never thought any of those.
Just add your nation to the list. We recently saw a comment made by a young American who has gone to study in the UK. He couldn't wait to get out, saying the atmosphere for the most part was gray, unfriendly, and intimidating. Maybe he just went to the wrong place, but one might argue that Americans are in general more open and positive than Brits. We might remember what the dry, wry British celebrity intellectual Stephen Fry said about his trip to the US when he made a show about travel there. He said this sense of outgoing positivity he enjoyed, and he said it's something the Brits were missing. You can do it in America, or at least many people are taught to think they can. While back in Britain, perhaps the most downtrodden submit to the fact that life is hard, painful. Where's the beer? What some people call arrogance, Fry said, was partly American optimism, or what he said was a refusal to see oneself in a bad light. He added, if you go to an American bookshop, by far the biggest section is the self-help and improvement. He said people believe that life is refinable and improvable. That's how America works, he said. You adapt and you find ways to improve, you never submit. Hell yeah, he loves that about America. Take that in your British pipes and smoke it. We think we might add here that a lot of people have experienced this, and while harboring
We may be stupid, but we're optimistically stupid.
the stereotype that Americans are outgoing and confident, those same people might hold a counter generalization that sometimes this positivity climax is a bit too hard. It jumps the shark. And then, within this transposition, it manifests as something deplorable to others. It turns into pride without substance, blind faith, a superiority complex that is bathed only in its own ignorance. Number 2. Money. It's all about money. If you've ever read critiques on Hollywood versus cinema, you'll find that Hollywood is said to be firstly, perhaps only, a money-making enterprise. European cinema, we're told, is more about the art.
That's probably true. Hollywood is very corrupt, and I think that might just be inherent in how big it is. I don't think a production kind of industry like that's that big and that much money flowing through it. Eventually, people are going to co-opt it and corrupt it and find their ways to suck all the money out of it and gain power inside of it to make themselves money. So I'm guessing other film industries around the world are probably more genuine and about the arts. I would believe that.
In an American film, often the happiest of all happiest endings is when they get away with the money. What else could matter? If you want to make a movie in Hollywood, first show bits of it to the most average consumers and ask what they think. Then make the film based on the results. Even if the movie might be greeted with intense dislike by more refined audiences, it's all about cash, goddammit. We won't spend long on this, but America didn't
Just make a sequel.
invent capitalism. It's evidently just been very good at it. But at the same time, America embraces free speech, and critics of capitalism and neoliberalism abound in the country. America, the foundation of the United States, was built to have restrictions in place for if or when any behemoth gets out of control and gains too much power. We won't address the complications or merits of this today, but we will say that much of the world thinks America is overly money-centered, more than, say, focused on happiness gained from other means than merely being rich and having lots of things.
That's definitely true. There's definitely a huge focus on money, and that's basically what success is in America. I don't know about the rest of the world. I really don't. But success basically is how much money you have and how many things you have here in America. At least like the outside perception of your success. Hopefully to you it's not defined that way.
Number 1. Americans are all fat. Some Europeans and other citizens of the world like nothing more than to show their own superiority by constantly defaming Americans for their ingrained bad habits and slovenly TV-addicted fast food-related obesity. It is a fact that some part of America has a problem with eating, and this has led to what's called an obesity epidemic that has resulted in widespread health complications. Your average Asian might touch
And yet somehow we also have like the most eating disorder people that, see all the people in Hollywood and on magazines and starve themselves. So it goes both ways. It's amazing.
down in, say, Houston for the first time and think they've discovered a land of giants. But America is not the fattest country in the world. It's around the 17th according to the WHO. It's the fattest Western nation, but a lot of other Western countries are not far behind in terms of obesity. Obesity
We're not that much fatter.
crises are happening in the UK, New Zealand, Ireland, Australia, and many other nations. We can hardly say the junk food epidemic is
I mean, no matter where you go, you're going to have people that, because food is so good and tasty. And people are the same no matter where you go. At the baseline. The baseline human being likes to eat pizza and drink Coke all day long. So, yeah, there's fat people everywhere. I'm not surprised because it's no longer a society where we need to go hunt and forage for our food, and it's really difficult, and you might go hungry for a few days and whatever. So, yeah, there's a huge abundance of food. So, of course, people eat a lot.
American affliction only. And on the other hand, many Americans are fitness freaks. It's a fitness-conscious country as well as a nation of couch-bound sugar junkies. Just look at
That's true, you know. There is, while simultaneously being a lot of fat people who overindulge, there's also the people, you know, a lot of good athletes and stuff from America. There's all sorts of people in America, huh?
popular podcasts such as The Joe Rogan Show, and you'll see that health, longevity, physical improvement is on the minds of many Americans. You could even go as far to say that this new wave of health improvement is being led by an American avant-garde. But yes, the stereotype of fat America is hardly only imaginary. We could have added more to this list, but we feel if we're to debate these stereotypes in the
I will say, health and like working out are very, very in right now in America, and hopefully it stays that way. But my point is, like, going to the gym and stuff, you know, that is what's cool. It's cool to be fit. So I don't know. Hopefully it stays that way
comments, we
and keeps fixing itself.
might leave it here as it could get confusing. Do you think any of these stereotypes are true?
Yes,
Do you take offense to any of them?
sure.
Or do you think that they're merely criticisms that can lead to improvement?
Not all of them.
We'd love to hear from Americans and all of you who haven't visited the country but
There's definitely a difference between criticism and people just trying to be mean. But either way, do I take offense? Not really. That was fun. Well, it was sort of fun. It was eye-opening, I guess. And I hope you enjoyed. I did. I hope to see you here again tomorrow, because I'll be here reacting to something about America or the UK or whatever. And subscribe if you want to see it. Thank you for watching either way, and goodbye.